I was in the theater. Lindsay Lohan came on screen. The entire theater went like crazy. It was like when you saw like Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer, they were like, like everyone was going insane.
I think it's
really
hilarious.
fun.
That's the comparison.
No, it's true. Lindsay Lohan is our Albert Einstein.
Hello. Welcome back to Nostalgia Club. We are a number of podcast editors who get together during not work. Let me start again. Hello. Welcome back to Nostalgia Club. We are a number of podcast editors who get together and talk about the media we loved as kids. And we talk about it and we're like, wow, that really existed. Today, I'm Jino.
But not every other day.
I'm Jino. And I'm here with...
Victoria.
And we have a special guest here. Replacing Michael is...
Michael Wilkins.
A different Michael.
Other Michael. Michael 2. Do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, I'm Michael Wilkins. I have known Victoria, Michael Keane, and Jino for like 3 years now. I also work with them. I'm also a podcast editor. I've been trying to get on Nostalgia Club for like for as long as it's been running. And this is the first time and probably the only time I'm going to be featured on the podcast. But to be fair, I have been invited on the podcast before. I just keep canceling because I get busy. But I'm really excited to be here.
Yay! Woo!
Hooray! Today we're talking about Mean Girls, the movie.
Wow.
Not the people.
We're here today to talk about Mean Girls. No, I'm kidding.
Ugh, don't get me started. For those who haven't watched Mean Girls, what are you doing? But it was what year did this come out?
2004, I believe.
2004.
2004 school teen comedy, revenge comedy.
High school comedy.
Yeah.
High school drama comedy about Lindsay Lohan, who used to live in Africa, and she doesn't anymore, and she's been homeschooled, and now she's 16 going to high school for the very first time, and she's awkward, and it's high school, and it's American. And there's cliques, and they're all mean. She makes friends with some outcasts, and then she learns about this group of cliquey girls called the Plastics, and they're mean, and they're terrible, and so she infiltrates their group to try to take them down from the inside, and in doing so, becomes a plastic.
Dun, dun, dun.
Violent hijinks ensue.
She's also like incredibly manipulated this entire film, like from every person in her family.
That's true, yeah.
Oh, I guess her family of friends. Like
Yeah.
Janice Ian is the one who's telling her like, you need to start doing this. And then she does start doing this. And then she gets manipulated by the Plastics and her own friends. And it's just a whole big mess.
Yes, it is an excellently scripted story. There's a lot of layers, a lot of moving parts, a lot of physical comedy, which I didn't remember. But watching back, I'm like, people always talk about Edgar Wright being the king of physical comedy. But no, Mark Waters. And this movie, and I don't know, I haven't seen any other Mark Waters movies.
Yeah.
It's great. So, Michael, what's your history with Mean Girls?
I first saw this movie because my cousins would watch like movies when they were babysitting me. And so when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I saw this movie.
Whoa.
And it was like crazy because all the stuff they do are like very like adult humor, high school stuff. And I was like 8 years old, but it was really, really good. And I remember being like, wow, I can't wait to get to high school because there's going to be all these people just like this. And sadly, like there were.
Wait, you saw the movie and everyone was terrible and you were like, wow, I can't wait.
I thought it was like fun that they were in these situations. Like I thought it was fun that like she had to like prove that her boyfriend was cheating on someone else. Like, you know, like I thought it was fun that she had these friends that they were like doing all this stuff with.
So you wanted hijinks.
Yeah, like little tiny adventures where they're like, we're going to put, like when they put the foot cream like in the face cream bottle and they made her like face smell like a foot. Like I thought that was really funny.
So you wanted to do crimes.
I wanted to do hijinks.
Was your high school experience like Mean Girls?
No. I mean, like, yes, but for the wrong reasons, I would say. I always liked the movie. I remember I showed it to my mom and she was like, oh my God, because my mom's like very conservative and doesn't like movies like this, but she really thought Mean Girls was funny. And I really liked it. It was definitely like a family movie. It's a very like camp, like queer movie too to watch. And it's definitely like a requirement, but I think it's great.
Yeah.
Victoria.
So I have no idea when I watched Mean Girls for the first time. I know at some point I watched it, maybe in high school, but it's actually possible I might have watched it after high school.
I think I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I think because Mean Girls has such iconic moments that everyone knows about, it feels like I watched it a lot earlier.
There's so many, and there's more than I ever expected. Like the Mom, can you pick me up? I'm scared.
Yeah.
I don't know if that meme came from Mean Girls.
I
but-
think it must have. I had a similar reaction where I was like, oh, that's where that's from.
Yeah. There are dozens of them.
Yeah.
Phrases I had no idea came from this movie.
My favorite phrase is, she doesn't even go here.
Yeah. That
then
one's good.
When he's like, 2 for you, Glenn Coco, and none for Janice Ian, and then like runs out.
Or
Good for you,
none
Glenn
for,
Coco.
What's her name?
Janice Ian.
No, I already forgot the second
No, her name. Oh, it's not Janice. It's none for Gretchen Wieners.
Yes.
Gretchen.
Oh,
Yeah.
and she's like,
I kept wanting to say like Gwen, and I was like, that's not her. I just know her name starts with a G.
when she's
Sorry,
like, my
Gretchen.
father, the inventor of toaster strudel.
That was really funny.
That was really
Yeah.
good. They had a lot of iconic, or her hair is so big because it's filled with lies.
Yeah, so there's that line. There's also obviously on Wednesdays we wear pink. I made a list of them.
Get in, bitch. Going shopping.
That one should
Yeah.
have too. Or do I
No,
just
it's
think
get in, loser.
Oh.
We're
Going
going
shopping.
shopping. But they do say bitch a lot.
then there's do you want to do something fun? Do you want to go to Taco Bell? Yeah.
There's also the iconic on October 3rd, he asked me what day it was, which every year on October 3rd, everyone on Tumblr reblogs that post because they're like, it's October 3rd, you can reblog this post.
I remember that. It was definitely one of those movies that you kind of absorbed via osmosis through the internet before you ever saw it, or at least
Yeah.
I ever saw it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I think is iconic about that movie that no one talks about? Is Kevin G's rap.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, yo, I'm Kevin G. What did he say? He was like so like into it, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, I make love to your woman on the floor. I think it's like so intense and everyone's like, what is he doing?
The whole movie's over the top.
Yeah. What about you, Gino? I mean, you talked about how you also don't really remember.
Yeah, it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
Watched it. I get this movie confused with Legally Blonde all the time, which doesn't make sense.
Oh,
I think it's because they both feature blonde women.
that's fair. Yeah.
My only real Mean Girls experience with the movie Mean Girls, not the people Mean Girls, I met the director, Mark Waters.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
He came to our directing class my senior year, but I wasn't able to talk with him because I had to go rehearse my directing scene. And so I was booted into the adjacent room while the rest of the class got to hang out with Mark Waters for an hour. I only got to come back and listen to him talk for the last like 10 minutes. And the only thing I really learned from him was that the scene where Regina gets hit by a bus was surprisingly complicated to shoot because they had to shoot different plates for every actor and then
I can imagine.
a bus.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I got from that conversation. But he was cool. He was really down to earth. He was very unassuming, just like a dad.
Nice.
That's nice. Yeah, I love that scene. There's like a lot of drag performers that will do it. And when she gets hit by the bus, they like do a flip
Whoa.
Wow.
in like heels. It's really cool.
That's intense. Well, Michael and I watched the most recent 2024 Mean
Yes.
Girls, which is an adaptation of the musical. Multiple layers of adaptations here. Mean Girls came out in 2004. Then they made a musical based on it. And then now, most recently, they've made a movie adaptation of the musical. I was curious because I wanted to see how they modernized it because definitely the original Mean Girls is a bit dated. There's some parts that have not aged well.
Homophobia.
A lot of homophobia. Also just like racism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of racism.
Yeah.
It's comedic racism. It's still bad.
Yeah. The musical updated some things that were interesting.
I've heard mixed things.
It's complicated. It's
Regale
a very
me.
complicated thing.
The reality of high school is that people are going to be mean. And it's hard to sanitize that without making it disingenuous.
Mhm.
But I don't know. For me, the musical, I enjoyed some of the musical numbers, but overall, it didn't have the same feel as the original.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like people weren't mean enough.
Yeah.
It didn't feel as sharp.
Yeah, I guess so.
I feel like in today's world, just because I have family members that are still in high school that are girls, and they're very much like, school isn't very like PC and it's not very sanitized. I didn't think the movie should be less PC, but I think that when I first saw the new movie musical, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Like, this wasn't bad. Like, this was pretty good. Because every sequel that Hollywood does, I'm expecting to be horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
I still enjoyed it.
But then I rewatched the original Mean Girls for this.
yeah,
and
I
was
think
like,
watching them
oh,
back to back
not
is
even close.
like
Not even close. I think Renee Rapp killed it. I think
Renee
she
Rapp
killed
killed it. Ali'i Carvalho killed it as Janice. The biggest update for the movie musical is they made Janice openly gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that was something that I struggled with the new one because the old one was so based in her character being queer, right?
No, in the original, her character is straight.
She's not straight.
No, she's straight.
I mean, like...
She's not straight. No.
Canonically, they say that she's straight.
She wears a tux to prom.
I know, but...
There's this whole thing where she tries dancing with a guy and she's like, no, ew.
But then at the end of the movie, she's going out with a guy and they make out.
Yeah.
Wait, which guy? Oh.
Yeah. She's
The
going out
mathlete
with the
rapper.
mathlete.
It's open
with
to
Kevin G.
interpretation.
That's what I'm saying is, like, I think a lot of people saw Janice's character in the original Mean Girls and was like, she's queer in some way,
Yeah.
but they didn't commit to it.
It's nice that they did commit to it.
So yeah, they committed to it in the musical version. But it does make the conflict between her and Regina
Less.
different.
It makes it so different.
It makes it, they had to change a lot of things
Because
to make
she's
that
not
work.
outing her.
Yeah. They made
The
it.
stakes are less high, I would say, for her like
in the
betrayal.
musical version, it was Janice came out on her own, and then Regina supported her at first, but then turned on her and started like making fun of her for it. And then somehow like Janice was called a pyromaniac. Like that got mixed in there
What?
somehow.
It was so confusing.
And it was just confusing.
Okay, also the whole point in the original Mean Girls of why Regina George thinks that Janice is a lesbian is because she's Lebanese and she's so stupid that she didn't understand that that's different from being a lesbian.
Yeah.
I did not
Rough.
catch that.
I loved her in the musical. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, she
I
was
thought
the
Revenge
best
Party
part
was
of
great.
the musical.
She was great.
Besides Renee Rapp. Renee Rapp and Ali Carvalho were the best parts of
That's true.
the
They're really
musical.
good. I saw like the musical, right? And so when I watched the movie musical, I was like, oh, the numbers are different. Like the songs are different.
I was wondering about that actually.
There's one song, I can't remember it, but she's going like, I am filled with calculus, where she's singing about Aaron Samuels, right? But and it's like a very like somber, slow song. But in the musical, it was like bum bum bum. It was like really like a lot. The singing was a lot different.
I've heard this song.
I thought the one where they're when they in the new musical version when they're at the Halloween party, I thought that was awesome. I thought that was the best scene of the entire film when Renee Rapp has this like golden wing, whatever, and they have like this whole like song about how Halloween you're supposed to be slutty. I thought that was at the same level as the movie when it was in that scene too. And I thought that was there were a few moments where I was like, but also the thing you have to think about with the new movie is they had to incorporate like social media. That's hard to do.
I know. They always have to add TikTok in some way.
I thought it was funny. My favorite thing that I quote daily from that movie musical is when they go, all you did was have her revive the wet look. When she's like, yeah, no, that was good. I feel like they did a pretty good job with it. I never really like when they incorporate social media, but when it comes to bullying nowadays, like you kind of have to.
I think it made sense for the movie. I just personally don't like it.
I don't like it when
because
they
it
do
takes
that.
me out of it.
Yeah, it takes me out. But also I thought it was funny to see Megan Thee Stallion popping up on people's TikToks.
That was
being
really
like,
funny.
She's like, who's Regina George? Why is she on my feed? I thought that was good. I thought there was a lot of things they did right.
Yeah.
Especially for what they were trying to do. Like, it's really hard to adapt something that's so beloved. And so, and Lindsay Lohan's,
Oh yeah, she makes a cameo.
Oh,
She's
cool.
the, what is it called? Like, she's like the MC for the Mathletes competition.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a full circle moment
That's cool.
where she gets to say the question that Katie gets right at the very end.
There's a version of this where that is Katie.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, technically, you could say that this is all on the same timeline.
It's just repeating
It's
itself
just repeating.
in a terrible cycle.
there's another girl that moves from Africa. Okay, wait. When I was in the theater and Lindsay Lohan came on screen, the entire theater went like crazy. It was like when
Yeah.
you saw like Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer, they were like, like everyone was going insane.
I
It
think
was
it's
really fun.
hilarious that's the comparison.
No,
you
it's
made.
true. Lindsay Lohan is our Albert Einstein. One thing that I remember there being a lot of discourse over online and in the theater was the clothes that Regina George wore in the original movie were all like designer, right? Like it was Chanel, it was Valentino. Like she wore a lot of like Manolo Blahnik, like those types of brands. Because she's supposed to be like unbelievably wealthy and that's why she's
Yeah.
popular and also pretty. But then in the new movie, they chose a bunch of like indie brands. And I will say, and everyone talked about it, that it looks just like Shein. Like it looks like fast fashion. It looks... Someone even took a picture from the movie and showed that the skirt that one of the characters was wearing, it's like crooked. that like the fabric was made on the wrong side, and you can tell by the way it stretches. So like this is a fast fashion brand.
Interesting.
But it also goes to show like what are people wearing in high school? And it wasn't like cheap fashion. Like it just looked like that. But it just goes to show like what are kids wearing nowadays.
Yeah.
I think it fits with their characters. Fast fashion, throwing things away constantly.
Yeah.
Always trying to be updated.
Okay, my favorite thing about both of these films is always Damien.
Damien is great.
Damien's great. In the new one, Damien was so... Okay, my favorite update of the new one is that instead of his mom's car, he has like his grandma's scooter. And so they're driving past the like cul-de-sac, and they're having this whole like, why are you so obsessed with me, like conversation. And instead of saying like, Janice, I can't stop this car, he's like, Janice, my grandma needs us by 8. And he's like going so slow. Like that was hilarious. I think the actor did a fantastic job portraying that.
Yeah.
Like scooter, like mobility scooter or like a Vespa?
Mobility scooter. It was so funny. Okay, and also like his fan when he's like, right? When he has his sunglasses and hoodie on in the gym. That was amazing. Making him more queer was so funny, right? Because like Damien's supposed to be gay in the original one, but here he's like even more camp, which is really funny.
I agree. I was also conflicted though because some of the other characters, I felt like they weren't as iconic as the original. But I feel like in the original movie, those actors just like fully committed to the bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In every way. I keep bringing this up, but because it's stuck in my brain, how much physical violence there was in the original Mean Girls. There's a lot of stunts.
Yeah.
I think it's so hard to portray such iconic characters, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the writers, in order to make everything fit in the movie, like chose to develop their characters less. Like I really missed the like whole, her father invented toaster strudel. Like I feel like that rounds out her character a bit more. But I think that because people like already knew Mean Girls, they would just assume that they knew who she was. But I feel like they didn't fully develop them as much.
Yeah, that's something the movie did a lot. Is at the end, quote, the end of a scene, the camera would linger on a couple of like side characters, and they would have a full conversation that wasn't essential to the plot.
Yeah.
They did it like 3 or 4 times. But I guess in a musical, just the economy of time, you need to fit the songs in there.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the musical songs condense entire sequences into one sequence, basically. The whole revenge plan situation that happens in the original movie, that's like meticulously plotted out, and they explain their reasons why they're doing certain things. I think that's like most of like the second act of the movie is them figuring out how to bring Regina down.
Yeah.
But in the musical, it's one song.
Huh.
Yeah.
Revenge party.
It's a good song,
It's a good
but
song.
I was missing a lot of the moments of like, why is this whole candy cane thing so impactful for Gretchen? Why does it impact her so much that she doesn't get one, but Katie gets one? In the original movie, Regina's always like, I never send candy canes. I only receive them. And so the fact that Katie, quote unquote, receives one, even though she sent it to herself, hits Gretchen harder. But they don't really explain that. The candy cane thing is almost like made to seem like a spur of the moment decision that Katie makes. Whereas in the original movie, all 3 of them, Janice, Damien, and Katie, come up with the plan to use the candy canes as part of their sabotage.
Yeah. And the movie takes its time with the sabotage, too. It's not like a couple of big hits and then everything falls apart. It's like a slow build of manipulation, of gaslighting, girl boss, and gatekeeping.
Also, one more thing that I really missed from the new musical version is the burn book sequence, which is one of the most iconic.
Wait, they don't have it?
So
not as much.
They have it, but it's different. In the original, it's amazing. Like Regina walks through the hallways and she's throwing paper everywhere. She's shoving paper under the doors. It's an amazing sequence. Like she's really displaying how powerful she is in this school. In the musical version, all she does is she puts the entire book on the ground. And then when people come out of class, they take pictures of it and they distribute the photos digitally.
You could still do the paper thing today.
Exactly. I was like,
that's more impactful.
The paper is more impactful.
It's physical, right?
It's physical. The image of like the papers flying through the air is so iconic.
No, it's really good.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was like, oh, like I'm going to get all these like horrible things about my boyfriend and print them out and just... And of course she did not do that, but you could still do that and make a huge impact today.
Yeah.
I really missed Gretchen Wiener's kill Caesar scene.
That one,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
they
we should
cut
all
that.
just get together and kill Caesar. Like that.
It's so fundamental to the turning point of her character.
But also the turning point for like Lindsay Lohan's character. Like,
yeah.
When she's talking and she's like, oh, like her parents don't sleep in the same bedroom, if that's what you mean.
Well,
Yeah.
now I know.
I felt like in the new movie when they had her gain weight, I was like, oh, I'm surprised they kept that in because they took a lot of the stuff out that was like controversial.
That was actually the biggest thing that I was paying attention to, how they would modernize in the new version, because when I was watching the original movie, I was like, ooh, this is like a lot of fat shaming. Diet culture is not great. Obviously, like these things still happen, but
not to the extent of the 2000s. Like that was like prime diet culture.
Yeah, but in the musical movie, they actually didn't change it that much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought they would, because I think now, especially after we came out of COVID, they'd be like, oh, like I feel like if she started gaining weight, they'd be like, oh, Regina's in her thick girl era. Like this is fine. Like, you know, I was like, I didn't think it impacted her as much.
They put it in, but they don't refer to it as often.
Oh, okay.
In the original movie, almost all the time that they're in the cafeteria eating lunch, Regina makes some comment about how she's trying to lose 3 pounds, how she's trying to
butter
go
a
on
carb? Yeah,
like all these like different things, and part of it is like supposed to be a joke to be like Regina's also kind of dumb, but they only refer to it once or twice in the musical version. Oh, one thing I thought was cute, which again contributes to the Is Mean Girls, the musical movie, on the same timeline as the Mean Girls original movie. Tina Fey's character
she's
is
back.
married to the principal. And it's the same actor who plays the principal. Because in the original movie, they kind of had this like weird, like he clearly likes her. She just got divorced.
Yeah.
And that at the end of the movie, it's kind of implied that they start dating or might start dating. In the musical version, they're actually married.
Oh.
So I thought that was fun.
That is
good.
cool.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah.
Just a little fun, like almost Easter egg. It's only revealed at the gym auditorium scene when he's standing in front of all the junior high school girls. And then he goes to Tina Fey and he's like, can you handle this? And she's like, fine. But she says something about like, you have to walk the dog for the next week or something.
That's interesting, being cast in a movie in 2004 and then having to come back to it 20 years later and do the exact same scene again.
Yeah.
They didn't age like at all. I'm like, oh, you
I
guys look the
know.
same, just exact. I thought it was funny in the original when she like worked at like TGI Fridays, when she like worked at the mall as the teacher also worked at the mall.
The teacher was like, I have like 3 jobs because
Teaching doesn't pay.
teaching doesn't pay enough.
And also, she lost a lot of money in the divorce.
Oh, true.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. See,
No,
they had
Tina
more character building, right?
I think it's just we got to spend more time with the characters in the original.
It's true.
A
It's
lot
also
more
lot
time
longer.
spent just having the characters talk to each other and get to know each other. Whereas, again, the musical, a lot of things were condensed into one sequence to make it more engaging for a musical sequence.
It's just kind of how it happens.
I think also, similarly, the sabotage on Regina didn't land as hard because it went by so quickly.
Yes.
We didn't see the slow progression of like, oh, first she's like, she has a lot more acne. And then it's like, oh,
She had like one pimple. They were like, her face is horrible. And I was like, there's one small pimple.
Yeah, so it's like these things didn't land as much in the
I miss
musical
when they
version.
cut out her like nipples on her shirt in the original. Because in the new one, it's
She
like they
owned it,
spray
though.
her. Yeah, and the new one
Yeah.
they spray her with the wet look or whatever,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, she owned it. And then everyone started doing that.
That was really funny.
Yeah, and I feel like in the original, the girls would imitate Regina, right? Because they're like, she's so iconic. They got rid of that sequence where they're like, I heard she does car commercials in Japan.
Oh, but
I
that's such a
heard-
good sequence.
I know they got rid of that. I missed it.
Exactly. It's like all these like really iconic sequences were not there.
I know. Ariana Grande's Thank You Next was still like that one. Do you remember that one where she's like, I heard Ariana was pregnant, so I got pregnant. Turns out it was just a rumor. And then she's just like pregnant.
Who? What?
There's this whole sequence in Ariana Grande's Thank You Next where she parodied Mean Girls
Oh,
and a bunch
I
of
see.
iconic movies.
I thought you meant Ariana Grande's in Mean Girls, the musical. And I was like,
that would have been
whoa.
kind of fun. She's gonna be in Wicked. But yeah, it's the iconic scenes like that. Like I totally forgot that happened until I rewatched it and was like, oh no, this was like great. The scene where she's like in Girl World, where she's like comparing Africa to high school.
Oh, yeah. Another thing I was going to say is I really do think the movie suffers from lack of Katie narrations. Because the narrations in the original movie are so good. And it gives you such good insight into Katie's character and why this world that she steps into is so crazy.
Yeah, and it's also important to help set up the climax, too.
Yeah.
Because the constant, like, hallucinations, I guess she has.
Yeah, like when she does that whole like the watering hole at the fountain at the mall, right?
Yeah.
And they do that in like one, it's called the Apex Predator, which is a great song because like whenever my friend looks fierce, I'm like, oh my gosh, the Apex Predator just showed up. But there's like one moment where they kind of do that whole girl world thing versus the animal kingdom world. And I thought like,
that's where I was like, these characters aren't mean enough.
Yeah.
That sequence in the movie made me gasp because I was like, I can't believe Regina just did that.
Oh, the whole like...
The like calling the girl's mom.
The Planned Parenthood, like,
Yeah.
Congratulations, she's expecting. And then the mom's like,
Yeah.
Powerful and efficient.
That was horrible, but so like... I can't curse on this podcast, huh?
You can. We'll just meow it out.
Meow.
I'm gonna say it was so like... like, it was so like, it was great. Like, it was like,
It was
wow.
efficient.
Yeah, and she's like... She goes for the kill, right? But in this one, all she did was like... and she like lunges at him and he walks away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or she walks away,
Yeah.
the girl.
I just feel like Regina in the new movie relied heavily on Renee Rapp just being hot.
True.
And not
Which she
so much
is.
on Regina's character.
I agree.
I don't know.
No, I still think that like for what, like, don't get me wrong, like that movie was good because of Renee. Like Renee Rapp carried that movie, right? On her shoulders the entire time.
Yeah.
With the old one, every character was still like held everything. Like they were all so interesting and they all had the same amount of development, right?
Yeah. Even Amanda Seyfried as Karen, again, what I said, like she just fully commits to the role, which I really admire.
I love her like, there's a 30% chance it's already raining. And she's like touching her boob.
Yeah. Does that happen in the musical?
Yeah, they do it, but not as much.
Actually,
she's like at the end and it's not raining. She just like is doing the weather. Like it's not the same scene.
They didn't do that ending sequence where they show like where the characters end up.
Because that sequence in the movie is set up in a side conversation. One of those little extraneous scenes
yeah, she's
that
like,
don't
my
really
breasts
matter.
can always tell when it's raining.
Yeah, which again, another reason why the original movie is so great and is so iconic is because you have time for these extra scenes that don't progress the plot, which you can then pay off later as plot points.
What I thought was really funny in the original is when she does the K in the mirror and it's backwards.
Yeah.
And then in the new one, they had her like do her makeup and she dabs grilled cheese on her face.
What?
For like highlighter. It wasn't as good. But
her actress also did really good as Karen.
Oh, she
but
did
just
really
the way
good.
that Karen was written for the musical was not the same.
True.
No.
She was a side character.
Yeah.
And I wish she was more focused. I thought she was really, really good in the original.
Yeah.
Like in the original, she was always like saying like stupid, funny It took us out of Regina's like craziness. It was a really good comic relief.
Yeah.
And she's so genuine with it.
Yeah.
But she's not...
She's nice. She's one of the nicer Mean Girls. She doesn't do anything wrong. She's just dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's nice and she's dumb and she's genuine, but she's not like a clown.
Yeah.
I feel like grilled cheese on the face reduces her to like almost to a ridiculous level of...
Yeah, that was too dumb. Like that was a lot.
That's like Saturday morning cartoon dumb.
Yeah, but the K, because I would totally do that if I was like 16 and like less of an IQ. Was putting the because like you know like in the mirror everything's flipped and like she just forgot and it was just really funny.
I mean, I feel like I've done similar things to that. I can't come up with a specific example, but it was just so funny.
My friends and I were talking and we're all of color and we're talking about the new Mean Girls musical and we were talking about how one thing we would have thought would have like elevated everything and changed it to be really good is if they made Katie black, like actually like from Africa. Because the whole point of that is one joke in the beginning of like, oh yeah, she's from Africa, but she's white. And I thought it would have been a really good commentary on like being a person of color or minority, like in this predominantly like white school world with these like white plastic girls. My friends and I were like, that would have been a much better film than like the one we got.
I wonder how that would change the movie. I wonder if you would need to write the movie specifically for that perspective.
I think so, but it would have been so much funnier. Like it would have been so funny. Like you could have done so many jokes of like, dude, like these white people are insane. Like what are they doing? She just barked at a girl. Like this is insane.
I think it would have been different. I don't think it would have been bad different. But it would have been different.
I think it would have been better different. And I think it would have been a nice twist on like the old Mean Girls.
Yeah.
It's called White Girls. No, I'm joking.
That's a different movie.
White chicks.
Well, the whole movie, at least the beginning, the first act is about culture shock, right?
Yeah, the old one.
So it adds a whole other layer of context to the concept of culture shock. Because it's no longer like, oh, I was born in America and then I went and lived in Africa for a while and now I'm back. I mean, you can still do that and be black. But I think now with the rewrite, the context would be, oh, I was born there and now I'm coming here. So it's literally the story
more
of an
of a
immigrant.
culture shock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it would have heightened it, made the stakes a bit, you know.
Yeah.
I will say Jenna Fischer's the mom was adorable.
Oh, she's in the musical?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was adorable. That's
Wow.
Pam from The Office in Mean Girls.
In the musical, Katie's mom is a single mom.
I miss her
Oh.
dad, to be honest.
I know. I liked her dad. Obviously, her dad didn't play like a huge role in the original movie.
But there's a couple of nice scenes.
Yeah, there's a couple of really
Also,
nice
like, her
scenes.
mom would get really mad at her in the original one. Her dad would be like, okay, like, let's talk about it. Like, you know.
I think the impact of Katie's transformation from this goody two-shoes girl to the mean girl Katie is emphasized more because even her parents are like, what happened?
Yeah.
We don't recognize you anymore. Whereas in the musical, her mom is not a very big part of it.
I don't like that they started in Africa, to be honest. I will say Damien's TikTok was hilarious when he's like singing about like, he's like, this is a story, and like the aspect ratio changes and whatever. But I liked in the original one when she's narrating, which also shows us immediately like she's the main character. She's going to have this narration throughout of them being like, okay, here's some milk. Ask a bigger kid if he can show you where the lunchroom is. Da, da, da. And then you realize that she's 16.
Yeah.
I kind of missed that. I missed her grounded family dynamics.
Yeah.
Do more movies need narration these days?
I don't think they need more narration, but I think her perspective in the original is something that I wish they carried over only because it heightens her culture shock, right?
I definitely don't think they could have done narration and musical.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Unless, what if the narration was musical?
That's true.
Singing
if Katie
narration.
has a monologue. One thing I was curious about, Michael, in the new musical version, do you think that Katie is in love with Regina?
I think that there's more
Oh.
bisexual undertones than ever before.
Like, the moment that Regina walks into the cafeteria for the
Yeah,
first
she's,
time,
like, in
Katie is
love.
literally like awestruck. Like, she's just like, this is the only girl I'm looking at in this cafeteria.
My name is Regina George. Renee Rapp killed that song.
Which I think is like, obviously they're like, it's because everyone's looking at Regina. But like, specifically the way that Katie is framed in that sequence, I was like,
There's a lot of bisexual undertones throughout the entire film. I also thought Aaron Samuel's character was underdeveloped. In the
Aaron
new
Samuels
one.
is more boring in
He was
this
a lot more. He wasn't
version.
because in the other one, like you kind of understood why he was cool. Like
Yeah.
he was like an athlete, but he also was like really down to earth and nice to her. And she's like, oh, like maybe he's a possible love interest for me at this new school. And then they're like, you can't date him. Like that's Regina's ex, right? In this new one, he was kind of just like a guy. He was just kind of there.
Yeah.
And I wanted his character to have more screen time a little bit. Not a ton more, but like a little bit more development so that we could figure out why she liked him so much. Because he kind of seems like a random person just thrown into the mix. But that also goes to the theory that she's not really in love with him. She's in love with Regina, right?
I really feel like Katie had more chemistry with Regina than she did with Aaron
Very
Samuels.
true.
I was just kind of like, why do you like him?
Also,
I guess.
like, one thing that I'm glad they left out was the PE teacher that's like sleeping with the students.
Oh, yeah. That was, oof.
But I thought that was
Rough.
really funny. There's some things that I will always miss, like when Damien's in the bathroom and some girl's like, hey, this is the girls' bathroom. And he's like, Danny DeVito, I love you, right? Because the girl looks like Danny DeVito. I miss that. But also when he's like running he has a purse and he's acting like, you know, Katie got mugged and Aaron Samuel's chasing him and they're trying to expose Regina in the theater projection room, right?
Yeah.
And they see the coach and the student. And then Aaron Samuel's like, Coach Carr? And Damien takes off his back. He's like, Trang Pak? Like, that's like a bigger blow to him.
Yeah.
Definitely super dated. Definitely can't bring that back. But like, that was so
It's
funny.
just, again, just like commitment.
Commitment to the bit. Yeah.
Commitment to the bit.
So what I'm hearing is we need a third Mean Girls movie.
Yes. Mean Girls
Yeah.
3.
With some changes to Katie's character.
What do you think about if they made another Mean Girls, but with different characters?
No. Okay, first of all, you guys haven't seen the straight to DVD Mean Girls 2.
There's a Mean Girls too.
It's really
saw-
bad. It's really horrible.
I saw the poster for that and I
got
was
it at
like,
Walmart.
oh my God, they did another one? These are all different characters.
They're all different characters. It's the same plot line, just different characters. But the only person that's still from the original is the principal.
Oh, interesting.
And it ends with the soccer game. It's really dumb. No A-list anyone. But I think they can make a Mean Girls TV show and it would be really popular. Like a limited series
Yeah.
Mean Girls TV. I
But
think that would be
with
so
the
funny.
same characters.
With the same characters, but and again, they'd have to make it different, right?
Mm.
It would do well. If it wasn't a musical, I would be like, oh yeah, let's watch
I don't
it.
know if I want a Mean Girls TV show though, if it's the same storyline.
I want the same story. I mean, you would have to change it. Like if she was from Africa and actually like black, I'd be like, oh, I'm watching this immediately.
If
This
it
is
was a
funny.
black queer Katie,
yes, I'd watch
you have
it.
the same beginning.
I would
But then
watch the
that
heck
You would
out of that.
totally watch that, right?
That
Yeah.
does change. That, I
But
mean, that would
changes
change
it.
the
That's
story.
like
It makes it better.
But
It
that
makes
would
it so much more better.
that would justify
yeah,
a TV
if they're
show.
gonna
then.
make a TV show, it better be justified.
I would watch that. Okay, but the thing is they'd have to do like blatant like HBO Max Euphoria type of like, can you believe that Regina my dad? Like it'd be like, sorry.
They don't need that.
I think it'd be so funny.
But that's HBO's brand.
yeah, but it'd be funny.
I
Like,
think the Riverdaleing of television.
no, Riverdale turned into magical realism. No one kept watching that show, but it turned into magical realism. It's
Yeah.
like superpowers when it was about detectives in the first season.
I have heard arguments in favor of Riverdale, and I think
No.
there's a justification for its existence, a very unique justification. But what I mean more is almost the dramatization of high school,
Yeah.
which yes, some people go through that.
Euphoriatization.
The euphoriatization of high school. Yes, some people do go through that, but most of us didn't.
Yeah,
lot of
well,
people-
that
yeah.
that brings up a great question because it's like, do you know anyone who's had a high school experience like these movies?
My cousin went to high school in like the inner city of Los Angeles, and her high school experience was very much Euphoria and was very much Mean Girls and was very much like, we're gonna go fight at the lunch tables because you called me a catfish. And I was like,
Wow.
oh yeah, it was very okay. But also like, here's the thing: in girl world, like you can do that and like not have consequences. In real life, if you called someone's mom and told them you were Planned Parenthood, you would have like so many consequences the next day at school, right? But it's kind of like, what can you get away with in this movie world? And, I think that Mean Girls isn't super realistic, right? Like there are Mean Girls, and it is based on a book with like the writer's experiences, but it's not as dramatized as, like it would be today. Like, yeah, like I had Mean Girls in my high school and they thought they were the plastics, but they weren't like that crazy. I think the boy drama is like accurate. I'm like, no, like that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. But like the whole like manipulation. Also, I still think the real villain of Mean Girls is Janice Ian.
Hot take.
No,
Wow.
it's so common because like she like the first thing she does when she meets this girl and finds out that she sat at a table that she could never sit at is, how can I use this to make my agenda work, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I wouldn't call her the villain of the story, but I do think Janice's character is interesting because she's Katie's friend and she's portrayed in mostly a positive light. But if you really do think about it, yeah, she did take advantage of Katie being new to the school in order to get revenge on Regina.
Yeah. I mean, that's
But at the same time, like, Regina was the one who hurt Janice first.
Yeah.
So,
I think that was on purpose. Katie's new. Katie is, for the lack of a better word, innocent to the ways of high school, right? And she's been being manipulated on all sides. This isn't necessarily a fight of evil versus good. Like, she's being manipulated by everyone, and that's how she learns to be a manipulator. And at the end of the movie, everyone learns a lesson. Everyone gets their comeuppance,
Yeah.
including Janice. She has to go up on stage and then admit all of her faults to the whole school.
yeah. I think it's just real that when you're in high school and someone hurts you, your immediate reaction is just to hurt them back.
Yeah, when you're younger, like even
Yeah.
when I started working, because when I started working at this podcast company with all of you guys, I was like, what, like 19? Like I was or 18. I was
baby.
like, I was so young. Now I'm 21 for context, which shows you how long I've been working here. But I remember talking to Jino, like in my first year working here, being like, this person I dated hurt me, so I'm going to do this. And he was like, or don't put yourself in the situation where you're going to have to do that to them. And I was like, oh, that's so... Because when you get older, right?
Yeah.
You're like less about like...
When you're
eye for
older,
an
it's just
eye.
not worth it.
Because we're all overworked and tired. I can't go call people pretending to be Planned Parenthood or anything because I have to go home and do work for the next day of work. I don't know. These girls have so much... Also, how do they go to school? They have so much free time on their hands.
I was thinking that.
Yeah,
Although they do show Katie failing calculus.
that's true. She's
Even
spending
though
all her time at the mall.
She is doing it on purpose.
Oh, I
but
was like,
also-
Katie, no!
Okay, also
Don't
there was
make
no
yourself
mall
more
scenes.
stupid.
There was no mall because the American Mall is not what it used to be. There was no
That's
like...
true, yeah.
Do you guys
Yeah.
ever go hang out at the mall in high
I
school?
go to like...
I
oh,
went to the mall all
yeah.
the time in high school.
Yeah, the mall was... But like now kids don't really go to the mall. Like they're closing all over America.
Man,
Like,
I didn't even think about that. The way that kids hang out together nowadays is so different. Like, I think mostly kids just hang out online
Yeah.
after school.
Well, I've only been to the mall in that sort of like, let's go hang out at the mall a couple times. And I
Mhm.
mostly was just like, okay, now we're here. Now what do we do?
it's also because we don't have as much disposable income as before. I can't go to the mall and buy something at Bath and Body Works. It's
well,
like
I didn't go to the
$40.
mall to buy things.
No, you would get like a Slurpee or you'd get like food.
I
and
guess
you'd
so,
walk
yeah.
around.
It's
and
a
you'd
public
shop,
place to hang
right?
out
Yeah,
without
well,
parental supervision.
I would just like window shop with my friends usually.
You could go to like I mean, in LA, there's like the Grove, which is like a mall, but it's also like a park. Like it's very different.
Well, in Colorado, we had one mall, and we went there all the time. And somehow it was still interesting, I guess.
I miss when Katie's walking and they're like strut walking, like all of them in a formation, and then she falls into the trash can. And her legs are like twiddling.
That was really funny.
An incredible scene that they never bring up again.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't serve a purpose, but I'm glad they did it.
Or when she's I think Mean Girls is so quotable. Like even Obama quoted like stop trying to make fetch happen, right? But one thing I quote a lot is I'm sick, right? Because they're on the 3-way call. They didn't have that. Like I was like, they had a FaceTime call. It's different. Because like I will say as someone who is a young person, I don't do FaceTime that much. I don't know some of my friends do, but not like it's not super common to like. I think people that are of an older generation think that we use technology constantly, when in reality, like a lot of us just prefer texting or a regular phone call instead of like FaceTiming everyone.
I feel like actually, because I have friends who are between my age and your age, that window of people prefer FaceTiming.
Wait,
it's gotta
my
be like a
age or
pandemic
your
thing.
age?
Between my age and your age.
Oh.
So between, like, it's like a 2 to 3 year window of people who are like, I like to FaceTime people.
I think you must have a really good data plan, because whenever I FaceTime people, it's always like glitchy. Okay, here's the thing about FaceTime too. When you're on FaceTime with them, no one's ever showing their actual face. They're showing their forehead or the sky or like the fan in the room.
I have one friend who likes to do like homework work calls with people just on FaceTime. You just like start the FaceTime call and you set it on your desk.
I cannot do that. I'm so busy and I need to focus that I'm just like, also like, it feels weird that you're watching me. There was some essay I wrote in my film school where I was like, the most intimate thing is a phone call. Because you can't see them, you have to pay more attention to the way they sound on the phone. And I think that's why a lot of people prefer to call, because you have to pay attention to the way they're saying things, right? Instead of just looking at their face. And plus, when you do FaceTime, again, you see the forehead.
I don't know how you're FaceTiming people.
Everyone FaceTimes like, hey. Like, no one FaceTimes like, hi. Like,
what
no
is
one
up
does
with
that.
this generation?
I don't know. I still think that older generations in the writing room think that we use all of this technology, when in reality, like, some of us do. Like, you would see Regina with her Apple Vision Pro and her smartwatch. Like, that's not reality.
Bring back the Google Glass.
I actually missed that one. The glasses that had the screen.
Did you have one?
No, because they were like $3,000.
I don't know a single person who had one.
They also stopped making them, and if you bought them, they took them from you.
I think I've only ever tried one of those like demo versions.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, obviously none of us are in high school. I think you're the closest because you also have
I also went
cousins.
to a private school. Oh, yeah. I went to a private school in Los Angeles, right? And I was on scholarship, and I was like one of the only people of color because there was 2 of us. So my school experience was very different. But I will say a lot of people watch this movie and think it's the reality of high school. And I think that's low-key why sometimes girls are like this, is because they see this movie and be like, I want to be Regina George. And that's going to happen regardless.
That's an interesting thought.
No, because I sat at that table that was like the cool table, right?
Yeah.
It was so boring. So my entire high school experience, in the first like 2 years of high school, I didn't sit at the cool people table. I sat at like the like artsy, like everyone's random and sits here, right? And I really wanted to sit at the cool table with all the like cheerleaders and the football players, right? And then the last 2 years of high school, I did. And I just remember sitting there every day. I'd sit there and I'd be like, why did I work so hard to like sit here when these people are so vain and boring?
When I went to high school, I was so prepared for there to be so many cliques because that's what I'd been told. I mean, I guess there were obviously like the athletes who were,
but like your high school has to be
the
very like
kids.
small, kind of, to have those cliques. Because when it's huge, it's like,
yeah,
I don't know
you can't
who
really
you are.
notice. Yeah.
I had a small school and we didn't really have cliques.
Because
Because
you had an awesome school.
when the student body is too small, cliques don't hold up. Because cliques form around like common interest or like common activities or like
That's
you have
true.
to have some sort of unifying,
I think
thing.
your high school was like too small.
Yeah, but
My
when
high school was
everyone's
26 people.
when the high school is too small, everyone does everything.
Sure.
So you're no longer separated by like a unifying interest because everyone's interests are everywhere.
Everyone's on the football team.
We don't have a football team. We don't have enough people for that.
Oh, me
But like
too.
everyone's in theater. So like you don't have like theater nerds and not like everyone's there. Everyone plays a sport. Everyone does extracurricular activities. So there's no like friend group cliques kind of form, but even then like it doesn't really hold up because school's too small.
We kind of had the orchestra and band rivalry, but I didn't sit with orchestra kids at lunch or anything like that.
That's the biggest rivalry in your orchestra and band.
Well, I was in the orchestra, so I was most aware of the orchestra and band
What
rivalry.
would they do to you? Take your
Nothing.
oboe?
We just thought the band kids were gross.
Oh, I get that, because they're sweaty. And
Because they like spit on the ground and stuff.
Ew, okay. Ew, wait. Okay, I can see where
That
there's
is
a
gross.
rivalry now.
You're
My
right.
school
No, you're
had-
justified.
My school had 26 people in our graduating class, and we still had cliques. I remember one time
Whoa.
my English teacher went up to me and was like, "You're really good at navigating all of these cliques." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "I've seen you like at lunch. Like you
You're
are
just
very
a
much."
social butterfly.
I mean, like, yes, but like at the same time, like I did give in to that clique hierarchy for a little bit. But also, like, why? Like, it's stupid. Like when I was sitting next to all those people, I was like, they're all having the dumbest conversations, and they're all so vain.
Yeah.
I legitimately hate sitting here. And I eventually was like, okay, I still sat there for like a year, but I was like, okay, whatever, I'm moving. And then we moved online to COVID. But I don't know. I think high school after COVID has changed. There's a difference.
Post-COVID, post-TikTok, it's different.
I have a TikTok account. I don't use it.
Yeah.
I have Instagram. I'd rather see it 2 weeks later. Instagram Reels.
Well, thank you so much for listening to us talk about Mean Girls. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a rating and review. It really helps us out. And you can also email us at nostalgiaclubpodcast@gmail.com if there's anything you want us to cover. And also find us on Instagram at nostalgiaclubpodcast.
And if you think Michael Wilkins should replace Michael Keane, vote now.
That'll be the Q&A
We'll
question.
put a little poll, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's so mean.
Michael Keane is going to come back from vacation and be like, what happened? Anyways, until next time, don't be a mean girl.
Be a mean boy. Sorry.
On Wednesdays, we wear clothes.
On Wednesdays, we wear blue.
I was like, on Wednesdays you wear clothes? What do you wear on other days?
Clothes.
Nothing.
What I thought was funny is when Margot Robbie did the Barbie movie, she was like, okay, on Wednesdays we wear pink. And if a crew member wasn't wearing pink, then they'd put like $1 in a jar that they'd give to charity at the end of it. And you had to like, you can choose to like give $1 or not, and like participate or not. But it was like a very morale building thing. And I thought
That's
that was
fun.
cute.
Just
Yeah.
like fun little like
The Mean Girls culture
team
is still like
building.
fun. Yeah. Iconic movie.
the social impact of Mean Girls.
Cannot be understated.
It's very
Yeah.
fetch.
Michael, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Okay, that was good. That was good.